The Zarkith raiders believed themselves untouchable. They had crossed the galaxy, plundered colonies, and evaded patrol fleets with impunity. Their latest prize, a small human child taken from a border settlement, seemed insignificant. The crew was amused by the human size, its silence, and the odd, steady gaze it gave them. They discussed selling it to collectors or experimenting on it for profit. No one aboard the raider vessel comprehended the magnitude of their mistake. When the report reached Galactic General Sorenvek, he dismissed it at first as another routine raid. His officer calmly listed the plundered resources until the words human child punctured the report like a dagger. The officer hesitated when he saw the general's expression freeze. Vec demanded the information be repeated. The officer, confused, complied. The room's temperature seemed to drop. Vec rose, his voice low but laced with urgency. He ordered the raiders to immediately return the child, to abandon the ship if necessary, to obliterate all trace of the event. The officer stammered, asking why such drastic measures were required. Vec's response was devoid of hesitation. Because humans would come. Across the galactic core, humanity's reputation preceded them. They had begun as a minor Death World species, but every interaction with them had rewritten galactic strategy. Their resilience defied logic. They survived weapons that dissolved other species. They adapted to toxins, radiation, gravitational extremes. They had colonized worlds deemed uninhabitable. But worse, when provoked, they pursued retribution with a singular, horrifying focus. Records of previous incidents were whispered among military circles. There was the obliteration of the Varnathi fleet after a human trade vessel was attacked. There was the sterilization of the Quran outpost after a human convoy was kidnapped. In every case, the pattern was clear. When a human life was taken, humanity did not negotiate, did not relent, and did not forget. But when a human child was harmed, humanity escalated beyond military convention into an almost primal ferocity. General Vec's memories pulled him back to a classified report from decades prior. A mining consortium had accidentally caused the death of a human child by detonating charges on a disputed asteroid. Within days, human operatives crippled their entire logistical network, wiped out 7 deep space stations, and forced the corporation's unconditional surrender. The humans had done this not with fleets, but with precision strikes, misinformation, psychological manipulation, and the sheer terror of their impending presence. No plea for mercy had been acknowledged until the responsible parties were personally delivered to human authorities. Now a child was missing, taken, and the raiders had no idea what they had awakened. The human child aboard the Zarkith vessel remained eerily calm. Its small hands clutched a metal pendant, eyes studying the crew with disconcerting intensity. The raiders attempted to amuse themselves by taunting the child, but their usual methods evoked no fear, no tears. The child began mimicking their speech patterns astonishingly fast, puzzling the linguistics officer. Security logs noted that the child's heart rate remained steady during high-stress situations, showing no panic even when locked in isolation chambers. The ship's technicians dismissed minor malfunctions in the security grid as random glitches, unaware the child had already begun accessing peripheral systems. On Earth, a Priority 1 distress beacon activated. Automated systems escalated the event to emergency command channels within seconds. Protocol Sigmarad, rarely triggered, mobilized specialized rapid response teams. Civilian networks were encrypted, and within minutes, human reconnaissance drones had identified the vector trail of the raider vessel. Human fleets that were scattered across multiple sectors converged with alarming precision. The Galactic Union's emergency channels flared with activity. Pirate abandoned entire trade routes. Independent warlords retracted their fleets from contested zones. Smugglers purged their databanks of any human cargo records. The humans had not even fired a single shot, yet the galactic underworld was already in retreat. General Vec's calls to the raider captain were ignored. The captain, Razik Tol, laughed at the panicked messages, boasting that humans were overhyped, that their child was nothing but a curiosity, a trinket to be sold. Vec, his voice strained with desperation, told him he was not facing human soldiers or diplomats now. He was facing human parents. There was no treaty, no negotiation that could shield him. Vec urged him to abandon the ship, Flee in escape pods. Leave the child where it was. Toll dismissed him, intoxicated by the thrill of his perceived triumph. Reports of human fleet movements spread like wildfire. Entire sectors went dark as communications were jammed. Human ghost ships, previously thought to be myths, appeared in systems the Zarkith had used for centuries. Automated listening posts self-terminated after picking up human frequency locks. Surrendered pirate clans broadcast public apologies, desperate to distance themselves from Toll's ship. Meanwhile, the child's influence aboard the vessel intensified. Power grids rerouted themselves. Security doors sealed and unsealed with strange timing. The navigation officer reported inexplicable changes in starpath vectors. Some of the lower-ranking crew members began to feel the creeping weight of dread, claiming they heard human whispers over the comms, though no transmissions were detected. The child began speaking fluently in the Zarkith tongue, calmly conversing with the crew, asking them why they had taken her. She inquired about the ship's internal systems, not out of curiosity, but with an unnerving precision. Back on Earth, specialized pursuit vessels, equipped with quantum displacement drives, far beyond galactic standards, closed the distance to the Raider's ship in record time. Human intelligence units, operating from deep cover assets, dismantled the financial structures supporting pirate networks that might offer Toll refuge. Entire safe havens disappeared within days. Human operatives left deliberate traces of their movements, psychological pressure building like an inevitable tidal wave. Vec's subordinates failed to comprehend the depth of his panic. They believed he was overreacting to a single child. They had never seen the footage buried in restricted archives. They had never read the unredacted files of the human campaigns of retribution. Vec had seen the patterns. He had seen how humans hunted, not like soldiers but like predators with endless patience. He remembered the joint military exercise where humans simulated pursuit scenarios. The humans never ceased tracking. They never abandoned the lead. They chased their targets until their ships decayed and their commanders begged to surrender to avoid annihilation. The human response unfolded with a precision and speed that shattered the galactic standard for mobilization. Within hours, human reconnaissance vessels had charted the Zarkith Raider ship's probable escape routes, isolating sectors and sealing off hyperspace lanes that the Raiders might have used. Human long-range patrol crafts that had been dormant for years activated in synchrony, creating a tightening net that grew smaller with each passing moment. The galactic underworld watched in disbelief as human pursuit units began appearing in places thought impossible to reach in such a short time frame. Humanity's reputation, long feared and often dismissed by the arrogant, now walked in flesh and steel. For centuries, alien species had theorized about the extent of human retaliation capabilities, but this was no theory. Merchant guilds erased records of human cargo for fear of accidental association. Independent pirate clans dismantled their strongholds and fled, abandoning entire sectors. Some captains broadcast their surrender before even encountering a human vessel. The message was universal: distance from the Zarkith or face extinction. The Raider ship's crew began to fracture under the weight of escalating dread. The child's influence, once subtle, now became undeniable. Power systems rerouted themselves according to her will. Security overrides no longer responded to command inputs. Automated logs showed unexplained data transfers, encrypted in human dialects the Zarkith's systems could not decode. Crew members whispered about the child's calm demeanor, her ability to speak flawless Zarkith despite only days aboard the ship. Some began to question whether she was truly a captive at all. The lower ranks divided into factions. Some saw the child as a weapon, believing she could be leveraged for wealth or bargaining power. Others saw her as a curse, pleading to return her to humans before it was too late. Conflicts broke out among the crew. Disappearances increased. The child's access to the ship's environmental controls became apparent as corridors sealed unexpectedly. Life support systems briefly faltered, and essential resources vanished from the inventory. The Galactic General's emergency orders to Captain Toll grew increasingly desperate. Vec promised him safe passage, protection, even a full military escort if he would just return the child. Toll refused, his arrogance blinding him to the collapse of the support structures around him. He insisted that humans were exaggerating their capabilities, that the galaxy had grown soft with fear, and that this child was no more dangerous than a political token. Vec warned him that humanity would not respond with conventional diplomacy, but Toll severed communication, convinced the general had succumbed to baseless panic. Human ships drew closer. Their approach vectors showed patterns no alien fleet had ever dared. They bypassed established lanes, ignored gravitational anomalies that would cripple lesser ships, and arrived in locations considered unreachable. The humans utilized microjumps with frightening precision, achieving transition speeds the galaxy had deemed impossible. They deployed subspace jammers that silenced entire sectors. Communication outposts went dark one after another, leaving the Zarkith Raider ship increasingly isolated. Within the pirate networks, factions dissolved in real time. Longtime allies refused to answer Toll's distress signals. Supply lines evaporated as stations abandoned positions, fearing they would become collateral in inevitable human assault. Entire mercenary guilds broke ancient contracts, prioritizing survival over loyalty. The child continued to dismantle the Raider ship from within. She controlled life support, propulsion, communications, even access to weapon systems. Toll attempted to reassert control, but every countermeasure was thwarted. Security logs now displayed messages in human code, mockingly acknowledging the captain's efforts. Crew members reported seeing human fleet symbols embedded in system diagnostics. Others claimed they heard the child's voice across closed communication channels, even when she was nowhere near. Human psychological warfare unfolded with brutal efficiency. Propaganda signals began broadcasting in the Raider ship's vicinity, speaking directly to the crew. The messages promised they would not be targeted if they surrendered the child, yet no response mechanism was provided. Only one path remained: abandon the child or be erased. The messages were reinforced by rapid system infiltrations that displayed human emblems across the Raider ship's control panels, as if the humans were already aboard. The Galactic Union's intelligence agencies scrambled to assess the growing disaster. Analysts predicted that the humans would reach the Raider ship within days. Union military leaders convened emergency councils, but no viable strategy emerged. The humans had bypassed conventional defenses, neutralized sensor grids, and rendered entire sectors unusable through jamming technologies. Diplomatic envoys dispatched to intercept the human fleets were ignored. Messages of apology were met with silence. The Raider ship's crew fragmented entirely. Mutinies erupted. Some factions begged to return the child immediately, while others, trapped by greed and fear, insisted on keeping her. Toll's authority collapsed as rival officers seized sections of the ship. Key systems began to fail under the strain of internal sabotage. Propulsion was intermittently disabled. Life support cycled erratically. Crew members turned on each other, paranoia consuming the ship from within. The child maintained her composure. She provided no instructions, no demands. She simply observed, speaking occasionally to select crew members, offering cryptic reassurances that help was coming. Her mastery over the ship's systems reached an apex when navigation controls began locking in courses that the crew could no longer override. Toll realized far too late that the child had guided the ship into a predictable path, one that led directly into the convergence point of the human fleets. Human Black Ops vessels, invisible to the Raider ship's sensors, shadowed their every move. These ships disabled Zarkith tracking beacons, erased their own signatures from galactic maps, and manipulated subspace echoes to project false readings. Human pursuit squadrons closed the net with a relentlessness that paralyzed even the most hardened pirate captains. Toll attempted to make a final stand. He broadcast threats, promises of resistance, and warnings to the humans to cease their pursuit. His messages were not acknowledged. His pleas to the Galactic General were met with a grim response. Vec informed him that the human retrieval protocols were absolute. Vec begged Toll to jettison the child in an escape pod, to do whatever was necessary to sever his connection to her. Toll, blinded by his delusion of control, refused to surrender his prize. The child began communicating directly with the human fleet using the Raider ship systems. She provided her exact coordinates, described the crew's internal conflicts, and transmitted detailed schematics of the vessel. The humans responded with tactical adjustments so rapid and precise that Toll realized the ship's vulnerability in horrifying detail. The humans had been watching every step.